All right, before we lay these stencils, I wanted to talk just for a second about different options with stenciling. I traditionally have just used soap and water to place stencils. Basically, just a thin coat of soap and water. And I'll just kind of show you. I'll get Sean to stick his arm out here. Just a thin coat of soap and water. And what I traditionally will do, can you get Sean there?
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll put a decent amount on there, about like so, and then I kind of let it sit for just a few seconds. If you were to wipe it and leave it just that wet and immediately place a stencil on it, especially a stencil that has a lot of lines that are close together, they'll bleed out pretty quickly and make it hard to see. You won't get a very crisp line. So I will traditionally let it sit for just a minute. I do put it on kind of thick, but I'll let it sit for a minute. I've tried the other way where I'll put it on real thin, and then I end up sometimes not getting the transfer. So I'd rather put it on a little thicker, like make sure that the rag is actually wet, put it on a little thicker, and give it 5-10 seconds, and then place it. Over the last few years, things like, I don't even know what this brand is, I don't recommend or non-recommend it, Stencil Green, Stencil Stuff. I know there are a handful of specialty stencil application things, and there's actually some for laying markers on as well that you can draw on with markers and the marker will hold. I've never bought it. This was sent to us for free as a sample. It works fine. I don't have a problem with it. It does tend to stay longer than green soap. So sometimes when I'm doing wispy lines, if I want something to be gray washed, I don't want a really hard line, that stencil stays so dark for so long that I'm wiping and I can't really tell if my gray line is where I want it or as consistent as I want it. So I kind of like something in between. I want the stencil to remain there long enough for me to get my lines in, but I don't want it there for 3 hours and I'm trying to wipe it off at the end of the tattoo and there's still purple all over the arm. So it's kind of a balance. I'll tell you what I've been doing lately is if I'm stenciling something like this, this typewriter like we're doing today that has a ton of stuff, and these are, obviously I can't lose any of these lines. They're important. So I'll use the Stencil Stuff on that because I don't mind. I'll give up the easy wiping off in exchange to make sure that my stencil is there because that thing has to be perfect. If you're doing geometry, things like that, I think this stuff is great. If you're doing something like what the top part of this tattoo will be, which is a lot kind of wispier lines, a lot of flames and things like that can go away, I don't use this stuff generally. Then I'll just use green soap. The other thing I was going to mention, people back when I first started tattooing used to use a stick of deodorant all the time. That's a terrible idea. You've got real cross-contamination issues. You think you haven't broken the skin, but you can. You're shaving people, you can get little nicks, and you start rubbing a stick of deodorant over one person, and then rubbing that same stick over the next person, and it's you've got real issues with cross-contamination. So if you have been doing that, I've seen people do it on YouTube a few times. Don't do that. Use soap and water at the very least, or buy some of this stuff. All right. Okay. I'm going to place this stencil in parts on Sean here, and I'm going to kind of walk through my mindset. I have nothing on the skin yet. I'm going to dry fit it first. I've already kind of checked it with the line drawing to make sure that my scale was right, but now I'm going to dry fit the actual stencil. We know we want it down on his forearm. Generally, see how he's holding his arm out here? Generally, I'll get people to relax their arm. Sometimes people will want it tense, and it'll distort the stencil. And something like this, that's going to wrap a lot anyways, it wouldn't be the end of the world if that happened, but I just try to remind people to keep themselves kind of loose. And then I think about where exactly I want it. We're going to go about 3/4 with this piece. I think it might look cool with the keys kind of wrapping this muscle of his arm. That might be nice. But what I don't want is for this line of the top of the typewriter to be flat across and kind of break that right there. So that's kind of what I was fighting when I was looking at this earlier. Like, how do I want it to sit? I kind of want all of this to sit below the ditch. I don't want to have to do a ton of work in here, and you'll see when we place the next section that I've got some wispier stuff that pulls out of it. I'd rather that wispy stuff sit in here rather than some really hard lines, just because that's a tough area to get tattooed, and it's also an area that tends to not stay as crisp. So here's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking we'll set it about like so, kind of let the point of this thing drop straight down the inside of his arm as it rolls around. Those keys might look kind of cool like that, and we'll have stuff that pulls out from here anyways. And then that keeps it low enough that I can pull this other stuff up and out. So more of it is actually going to sit on his bicep than I'd intended. I really originally thought I might do it further back like this, but I think I'm going to go in. So that's going to put more on his bicep. I thought more was going to go back up this way, but that's all right. I'll be able to draw to change that. I always keep that stuff in mind. I try not to get too strict of an idea set in my head, because whenever I start placing it on people, pretty often I'll find that if I limit my placement on the front end, that I end up with not the best design. So I'm going to place that the stencil stuff now, which I'm going to use on this. I don't know if you're supposed to shake it or not, but I do. Looks like you should shake it. Done?
Yeah.
Alright. With this stuff, I don't really use a rag. I just squirt a little on my hand, and I feel like I can feel it a little better. And I make sure to get an area that's much larger than what I know I'm going to go on. It's kind of like if you're a painter at all, if you've ever tried to start the day with a little liquid or something on a section of canvas. If you slap it on with your brush, you can't really tell how much you have on there, but if you kind of feel it out with your hands like that, you can kind of feel the viscosity or whatever, kind of just how much you have on there, and if there's any gobbed up areas, you can feel it a lot easier. So that's what I'm doing now. All right. So I'm just going to relax your arm, drop it out just a little, just going to keep it relaxed there. I am going to take a stab at it. So what I usually will do is I'll place it straight down the center and then fold out from there. To me, the most important thing to get right are these keys. So I may end up with a couple of little folds, but I don't want it to happen in these keys. So I'm going to get those down. If I ended up with a fold or something in this, I can draw to correct it a lot easier than I can correct 400 keys. Or however, that's how many keys are on a keyboard, right? 400.
Yeah, 400 letters in the alphabet.
That's what I thought, 400 letters in the alphabet. Alright. So see, I've got a few little crinkles right there, but that's not the end of the world. I can straighten those lines out. These were my concern. I didn't want those guys getting all crinkled. So look around, make sure you got it all. Here's a good, see how thick that is? I left it a little too thick, and that's blowing out. So you don't want that. What you really want it to look like is more like this, just where you can kind of see the skin coming through it. That should be a good stencil right there. Most of this looks good. You know, some of this stuff looks like it got a little thick, but it's not the end of the world. You know, because I'm a professional and everything. All right, let's see what we got. Sometimes this stuff's hard to peel back off. I should be wearing a glove on this hand, but I'm not. I know Sean really well. We've slept together.
It's true.
Alright, see, so that stencil's nice and clean, just like I thought it would be. Some of that's broken up. It's fine. I can fix that. As a matter of fact, a lot of that's going away, but you'll see when I lay the next part of the stencil that we have some stuff that breaks in front of this. This is my concern. What do those keys look like? Pretty sweet. There's that little area that got a little bit thick, and you can see if you had an entire stencil of that, just that little kind of light purple, it just kind of blurs the edges, and if you had that all the way through, it would be a mess. So, there you go. I kind of like the way that sits. Before we go any further, we'll make sure he likes the way it sits. I like, you know, kind of the point right there, and this is we didn't talk about it. This is a Kurt Vonnegut piece, a Slaughterhouse 5 piece. So this is Vonnegut's typewriter, and it's kind of a baby blue, and obviously Sean is kind of tan, which is why he's Pool Boy Sean. So I am going to end up going lower than this, because what I don't want is baby blue against tan skin. It's not going to be a nice dynamic finish. So I'll drop a shadow, or I'll drop something below it that's going to be nice and strong contrast to pop this out. So I'm keeping that in mind as well, you know, and I may even, you know, pull something up in front of it. I'm not really sure. I'll start drawing a little bit to make that decision. But okay, part one down. One thing I'll do sometimes when I'm wrapping like a bicep or something like that, and it's something that's organic that doesn't depend on being really structured like that, I make these little relief cuts in it because sometimes it'll help you avoid crinkles. They'll just kind of fold over each other. Just a little tip. All right, so relax right here. Same thing. I'm just going to go straight up here. I don't know if that's the way I want it. We're about to find out. I feel like I want it to turn more than that. I can already tell that I do, but since it's already on here, place it and just see. Further in than I want. I really want to see this sitting more like so instead of in here. So I kind of decided, first I thought this building was really going to sit out here when I first started drawing for it. You can kind of see that it was designed to that space. But I really, the typewriter is important to me. I want it to sit this way. So I'm fine with the slaughterhouse sitting right here on the center of his bicep. But I think it needs to be a focal point. What we don't want is for it to sit completely to the inside. Agree?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to do that again. Here's a good opportunity to show removing stencils. I'm using green soap to get the most of it off. I'll get it light with green soap. Sometimes I like to leave a little bit of the old stencil through there when I'm trying to find my placement because it gives me a guide because I know that's too far in. So the next time I'm weighing it, I can kind of do this and look at it and line it over because I can see where the old one's at. I don't want it this dark because it will compete with my new stencil and be very confusing. So I'm going to get as much as I can with this. And then I'm going to move to alcohol. Alcohol will get it light enough. Just takes a little work.
I mean, if you would have gotten it right the first time.
If I'd gotten it right the first time, then we wouldn't have had this tutorial. I also really like to get the arm as irritated as I can so it's just ready to spew blood. That's my favorite. Alright, let's try this again. So, looking for my old tattoo, I got rid of too much of it. But I see this thing. See that? That. So, I'll use it to guide myself. I was trying to line it, the bottom of this, to the top of the typewriter. That's not really that important. I mean, this is just flames and paper. I can draw that in. So, it's more important that this thing sits where we want it to. So that's what I'm going to worry about. Alright, go down the center. You can see where those relief cuts kind of come in handy. You know, I would have gotten a crinkle or a pull, and they'll separate a little, and it's simple just to draw that stuff back in. Alright, and so anytime you're concerned, like, see, that's not really pressing down on there. Just take your cloth and just bump it. You don't have to go overboard with it. Just bump it until it kind of feels like it's taken.
Like a temporary tattoo?
Like a temporary tattoo, which is mostly what I make. Alright, this text is kind of important, so I'll make sure it's in there. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Big reveal. Yeah, I'm much happier with where that's sitting now. The only thing it really affected at all was down through here, and that's not a big deal. I mean, I can draw, it's a piece of paper. I can even pull a flame up or something. I really wanted the paper to cut all the way to this side, but when you're working with something that's in the round like this, you can't let little things like that dictate decisions, you know. You can draw and make those changes. What I really wanted to make sure is that this thing flowed the way I want it to. And I actually like that. I mean, because if you think about drawing to the body, that tricep and then the way the flames go, and I can make little tweaks to make those things pull up as he flexes his tricep right here.
Just helping you out.
Thanks. All right, we're going to start tattooing.